Let's go. Rise of the Phoenix is going to be the July season for Marvel Snap, and with it, the featured card is Phoenix Force. I have been hyped about this card for quite a bit of time, so I'm really excited to do this video and talk to you guys about it. But before we get into the card, I want to make a quick note about the economy in Marvel Snap. It's projected that the big patch is going to go live July 11th, and with it is going to be a complete overhaul of the economy as we know it. Instead of really focusing on tokens to acquire new cards, the focus is going to be progressing on the collection road to acquire spotlight caches, which are going to show up 1 in every 10 reserves. That means that the currencies are going to shift in value. I think tokens, while they're going to be more rare, are going to be less necessary because it's just going to take a really long time to acquire a card through those means. Otherwise, the credits and gold actually are increasing in value because you need more credits to jump through the collection road, and then gold is actually being straight up removed from the collection road itself. So there's no other means really of acquiring that resource except for completing weekly missions, daily missions, that kind of thing, and the season pass. Conquest as well. That's another means of getting gold. But regardless, it's going to be a lot more rare, right? So what I was thinking is that with the season pass, if none of the rewards change, and we don't know that 100% yet, we're going to find out tomorrow, but provided that they don't change because they haven't in a while, and the price remains the same, the value of the season pass has actually increased. So I think it's actually even more worth it to pick up the season pass because you have more means of acquiring new cards and you get this new card right away. But don't take that as a nudge to buy it. If you haven't before and you don't like to spend money on these types of games, don't. That's my advice. All right, okay, so let's get into the card here. So the Phoenix Force is a 5/6. On reveal, revive one of your destroyed cards and merge with it. That card can move each turn. This has underwent so many changes since its original data mine. It's kind of wild, but I really love where we ended up landing on it. Not to mention the stat line from the last time that I talked about this card, it got increased. It's now a 5/6 instead of a 5/5, which is that much better when you're merging with another card. The combos here are insane. Look at the colors that I got on the text. There's so much going on here, including a new pseudo keyword in Revive. I mean, we've seen that with Hela with this discards and them coming back from the discard pile, but we haven't really seen it with the destroy. So I am really stoked about this card. I think it's going to be pretty strong in quite a few lists, but I do have to break down a lot of mechanics that I just learned about from the devs. So these are very important details. Let's get to it. Okay, so as for the mechanics, here's a really quick overview of how this card works. It only revives your destroyed cards. So if you use Yondu, for instance, you are destroying one of your opponent's cards. That is not going to work with Phoenix Force. You cannot resurrect the card that you destroyed off of Yondu. Same with Shang-Chi, you can destroy their thing, but that's not really going to help you when you play Phoenix Force unless you've destroyed one of your own cards previously, okay? Does not require 2 open slots at a location. We have confirmation from the devs on this, and it was shown in the Season Pass video, the feature video where they show the cards, that when Phoenix Force activates its ability, right, it merges with the card on the spot, and then it goes back to that same location. It does not summon the card and then they merge. There is not a need of 2 positions at a location. It's going to basically just smush on top of one another and then be placed at that location. It's fantastic. Now, a thing to note with this is that it's essentially turning into the other card. You don't really actually see Phoenix Force unless it gets countered by Cosmo or something like that. It's going to merge pretty instantaneously after you've played it. It also does not work with Wolverine, Deadpool, or Sabretooth. Those cards are making copies. They're not actually being destroyed and put in the destroy pile. If you ever play a destroy deck and you look at the little like counter that's on the sideboard there, you will note that it doesn't actually increase after you've destroyed one of these cards. Even though Death retains discounts, it's not actually tracked as a destroyed card. I think that's kind of fascinating. It's almost like there's 2 separate destroy counters that are occurring in the game. But regardless, those cards won't actually work, which is kind of brutal because those are some pretty key destroy cards in the archetype. On reveals can activate after the resurrection. That's crazy. Think about it this way. I don't know how you could pull it off. There are so many combos, guys. There are so many combos. I cannot even cover all of the combinations in this video. But you could think like if you can find a way to destroy Black Panther because of like a location, then you resummon it, it's going to double the power of Phoenix Force. Phoenix Force would merge with the Black Panther, which had 8 power. It would merge, and it becomes 14, and then it would resurrect, activate the on reveal, and become a 28 power card. Like that's crazy. Now that's going to be difficult because Phoenix Force costs 5, but I'm sure people are going to find a way to make that work. Just unreal combinations. But a key note is it does not work with Wong or Kamartaj. So anything that's doubling those on reveals, it's not actually going to work because it's already merged. We've seen this with Hulkbuster, right? Hulkbuster doesn't merge twice. It's not going to merge to a card and then have that card merge to another. Once it merges, it basically overwrites any text or any effect that was previously on that card, so it doesn't actually activate twice. Now, what could happen twice, though, is the on reveal of that card that Phoenix Force has become, right? So going back to the Black Panther example, if we do a Phoenix Force play and it becomes Black Panther at Kamartaj, that on reveal is going to trigger a second time. So that 28 power has now become 56. Wild, just wild. All right, some of the pros and the cons of this card, okay? So if played on turn 5, it can move to unplayable locations. Like, that line of text blows my mind that we don't just have a means of resurrecting a card, but we also have a means of moving it afterwards. That's like, okay, so put it this way, okay? If it destroys a 1 power card, the net value is 7 power, right? You have the 6, it merges to that 1 power. Let's say it was a squirrel. Well, now you have vision. You have vision. That's what you have, a 5/7 that can now move wherever you want. Like, that's crazy. Like, I don't know why we're doing this when vision exists. Like, he needs a buff or something to have a little bit more relevancy. Like, obviously this requires setup, but the potential for this card to actually be game changing is like through the roof, because I just listed out the worst case scenario. Well, next to Cosmo, of course, being denied the on reveal. But the next worst case scenario is like a squirrel, right? And then it becomes only a 5/7 that can move. It's a vision. Like, that's wild to me. And then the synergies, right? We were talking about all those keywords. You got destroy synergies, you got on reveals, you got move synergies. It's through the roof. A crazy one that they showcased in the video for the season pass was a Human Torch becoming crazy. Like, yeah, that's a wild combination. You destroy the torch with Killmonger or something, or maybe your opponent did it for you even better, and then you were maybe able to move it once or twice. You resurrect it with Phoenix Force and then can move, and then it doubles again. Like, and then you give all that +6. It's like easy power. Easy power. I think that is one of the best combinations for this card. But there are some cons. It's not all rainbows, okay? So it's an RNG effect. If multiple cards have been destroyed, then you don't really have agency over what is being resurrected. And I think the most disruptive method of that is if your opponent decides to destroy one of your cards that you're setting up. Now, you can kind of control this by what you're running in your deck, because 1-drops, you know, if you limit the amount of 1-drops, then if Killmonger comes out, then you kind of know what's going to happen, what's going to be resurrected. Another one is anything over 9 power, right? But we have to watch out. There's going to be more cards that are printed that destroy your cards or opponent's cards, stuff like that, and that's always going to have residual effects to Phoenix Force. The other thing is that it requires setup. And I think I have to always hesitate when it comes to a card that requires setup and is not just a standalone combo breaker or something like that. Like, if it requires a turn prior of utility to actually be fully effective on the turn that it is played, that can have some serious downsides and sometimes doesn't work, because now you're draw reliant, now you're combo reliant. You're hoping that your opponent doesn't disrupt whatever you're trying to do on, you know, your multi-turn setup. So you just kind of have to watch out. I think this card kind of gets away with it with pretty easy conditions to meet and not a lot of, you know, bad things happening if you don't get full value. But otherwise, like, it's a little bit slow. It might be a little bit slow. And then the biggest thing for me is the low variant value. So we had Snowguard that came out, and that card, if you have a variant for it, it doesn't even matter, because it becomes a bear or it becomes an eagle, and that's it. You don't actually see the variant. They don't have respective variants to the artists that make the base variants. Phoenix Force is almost worse, because it's not actually even going to turn into an eagle or a bear. It's just going to turn into the other card that you destroyed. Now, hopefully you have a sick variant of that one and you get to see it again after it's been destroyed. So I guess you could look at the bright side there. But Phoenix Force, if you get this awesome season pass one from Alex Horley, you're not going to see it much, with the exception of it being in your hand. So that's kind of disappointing, but there's only 3 variants out right now anyways, including the base one. So not too bad. Now, before we get to some of the counters and some of the synergies and some really fun theory crafted decks that I've brewed up here today, definitely click the link in the description below to snap.fan. I'm going to have a full article, but we're going to cover this and more. And I'm going to have more in-depth strategy to the decks that I'm going to be featuring. But here are some counters that I've conjured up here. Some interesting counters. I kind of hem and hawed and try to find, you know, something that could really mess with the strategy that is Phoenix Force. But the biggest one is Cosmo. Obviously, it's an on reveal, and Cosmo comes down. You can't activate your on reveal. You don't have the ability to move the card. You destroyed something that you cannot bring back. It's going to be a rough time. So if you're not looking to pick up this card, maybe you start teching in Cosmo into your decks. Another one is Shang-Chi. So if you do actually end up with something over 9 power, but you don't actually want to resurrect that card respectively, you wanted to leave it on its own, and your opponent destroys it with Shang-Chi, well, now you risk the RNG aspect of either resurrecting the thing you wanted to or the card that your opponent destroyed. And then I have Armor here. You could also lump in Professor X, really just anti-destroy package that would just like make it really difficult to destroy things so that when you actually have the turn to play Phoenix Force, you have nothing destroyed, and that sucks, and then no combo is had. Spider-Ham was interesting. I thought Spider-Ham is pretty disruptive because there's a good shot, at least when my theory crafting, that Phoenix Force might end up being the highest cost card in your hand. Spider-Ham's gonna whack it, and then maybe you already invested in destroying something, and now you can't actually bring it back, and that's a really bad situation to be in. Same goes with Iceman. You don't really want to play Phoenix Force on 6. Iceman can hit it, put it to 6, and then you don't have the ability to move it afterwards. Not the end of the world, but it might, hurt your Human Torch strategy. Scorpion's another one that's kind of interesting because there is a merge effect occurring here, and if Phoenix Force has less power, then there's less power being merged. Not the worst thing in the world going from 6 to 5. I mean, we already got that buff from the data mine, but hey, it could be that little point difference that makes a difference. All right, now for some key synergies and some theory crafted decks. These decks are wild. I just went for pure fun for these, and I'm really excited to try these out. Okay, so here's some key synergies. Multiple Man. Dude, this is going to be wild, right? Because if you just destroy Multiple Man, and then you play Phoenix Force and you resurrect Multiple Man, that is essentially 9 power Multiple Man that can move. 18 power, essentially. Like, that's just wild to me. And then maybe you like toss in, like on turn 6, you could do like a Heimdall, or you could do like a Doctor Strange, or like Ghost Spider. Anything else to move this card a couple times. Then you got 9 power Multiple Men everywhere. Wild. I think that's a really sneaky strategy right there, and like not too hard to destroy Multiple Man. Then you have Human Torch, even easier to destroy because of Killmonger. But then, we've already seen that just be a crazy combo. You can get easily to the 20 power range. And then Atuma. I thought Atuma's pretty good too, because Atuma's going to destroy himself. You just play him at a location with something else. He destroys himself. You don't have to invest any further. And then you resurrect it with Phoenix Force at a open location, because you have to watch out. It is going to be Atuma again, or you have armor protecting it, and you have a 16 power card. Like that's insane value, and you don't have to invest that much. Literally Atuma on 4, Phoenix Force on 5. You're good to go. Venom, I think, is going to be one of the best destroy cards for this combination, like any on reveal combination, because basically the idea is that Venom is going to retain the power that you have destroyed, and then Phoenix Force is going to resurrect it, essentially doubling the power output. That is just very, very good value. Another one is Shuri, right? Shuri's going to double the power of Phoenix Force when she comes out, right? So it's going to be a 12 merging to whatever else you are resurrecting. That is just wild. The combinations are through the roof. I'm telling you, it's going to be wild. You do have to obviously watch out for Shang-Chi, like I was mentioning in the counters, because that could hit your Phoenix Force, but movement occurs before the reveals of cards. So if you do move it on that turn 6 to get away from Shang-Chi, or just like make an unpredictable piece of movement, you might be safe. So here's some of the deck lists I have, okay? So I actually want to start on the far right with Water Phoenix. I'm pretty excited about this one because the idea is that you're just kind of doing the Shuri Red Skull thing, except you're resurrecting Atuma. That's hopefully what you do, right? So you destroy Atuma by just playing it, you Phoenix Force, and you resurrect it. If you can, even if you can, what you'll do is you'll Shuri Atuma Phoenix Force, right? Because you use Zabu. So Zabu, Shuri, Atuma, Phoenix Force, Taskmaster. That's just crazy, right? Because it's then going to be 2 26s with 26 of Atuma and then 26 on Taskmaster. You just have to make sure that you're at an open location. I know that, and I know there's a lot of counters like the goblins and whatnot, but still, it seems super fun to actually use Atuma. You never get to use that guy. And then there's some fallbacks, right? I have Venom and Typhoid Mary because maybe we just want to eat up Typhoid Mary so that we can resurrect her and then Taskmaster her, and that's essentially a 16-16. Like, that's not too bad. We also have Storm and Jeff just to move Jeff over there. And then maybe if we can move the resurrected, whatever Phoenix Force decides to resurrect, move it over to the Stormed location. That's a nice way to win that one. And then Armor to protect the Atuma if we need to. I feel like this list could work. I think it's pretty fun, a little bit unique. Another one that I got here is Birdmen. So this is the concept of using multiple man and moving it, destroying it, so that you can resurrect it and then move it again with Heimdall, so that you just have a bunch of men everywhere. I think that list is going to be so much fun. Multiple men decks are a lot of fun. They just drop off after Series 2, I find, when there's other options, when you're introduced to like Human Torch and whatnot. But I actually think that it might prevail over Torch. Maybe not, because we have Surf Force here. Now, I want to get something really clear out of the way. You could easily merge the power and combinations of Water Phoenix with this deck I'm about to talk about, essentially like the Shuri Taskmaster combo with Torch. I think that might end up being one of the better altogether lists, but this one just seems really fun. And the idea is that you can move around Torch if you want. You have Killmonger and Venom to destroy it. But we also have Silver Surfer. And I was thinking, what if Silver Surfer, you play it early, which seems a little bit weird, but then you destroy it, just Silver Surfer, and resurrect it with Phoenix Force, because then your on reveal is going to trigger again. And then if we have Wong set up somewhere and then you play Phoenix Force at the Wong location, now remember, it's not actually going to merge 2 cards, it's not going to resurrect 2 cards, but its on reveal will trigger twice, and that's essentially using Surfer 3 times in a match if you can pull it off. Now there's a lot that needs to fall in place for that to actually happen, but it seems fun, my dude. It seems super fun. And then another backup is like, I don't know, like Deathlock, even if you destroy Cloak with it or Torch or whatever, and that becomes the resurrect target, then I think that's just perfectly fine. You know, it's not the best, but it seems really fun. Again, I think the best list would just be taking Torch, a few of the move package, mixing it with Shuri, Phoenix Force, and Taskmaster, but I want it to be a little bit more creative than that. All right, so that's going to do it for me. So that is Phoenix Force. I'm stoked for this card. I think it's such a cool addition to Marvel Snap. If you want more details about these deck lists and just a guide on Phoenix Force, definitely check out snap.fan. I'll have the article up soon, and I'll have the link in the description. So definitely go and check it out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.